In this video, we will be talking about Gantt chart in detail with PowerPoint users in mind. We will start with defining what is a Gantt chart. Then we will talk about why do we need it, what are the benefits. In the final step, we will be looking at how to create a Gantt chart using templates. Let's start with defining what is a Gantt chart. So Gantt chart is nothing but a bar chart that visualizes a project schedule. This was originally popularized by Henry Gantt in around 1910 to 1915. Since then, it has evolved a lot. Now there are softwares which allow you to create this. There are so many templates out there in Excel and other softwares that let you create really complex Gantt chart that are beyond the scope of PowerPoint, because PowerPoint allows us to mainly show a static Gantt chart unless you embed an Excel template. So my goal in this video is to show you how to create a Gantt chart within PowerPoint that's easily editable, customizable, and you can create it from scratch without any knowledge of programming or any other software. So this is how a basic Gantt chart looks like. Let's look at all the elements of a Gantt chart. In the rows, we have the tasks. In columns is where we will place our time. So whether your project is spread across days or months or quarters or even years, this is where we will have our timeline. Next, we have the start and end duration of our task. This is the bar chart aspect of our Gantt chart. And if we need, we can add a total duration for each task in a column like this. So next logical question is, why do we need a Gantt chart? For that, let's look at an example. Let's say we have a team of 4 people who are trying to develop an app. We will start by listing what are the tasks involved in developing an app. We will list those down in our rows. Then we will decide what is our timeline. Is it in days or months? We will place our timeline in our columns. So in this case, we expect the app to be finished in 6 months. Then we plot our Gantt chart by coloring individual tasks. For example, the ideation and requirement gathering phase is expected to take 2 weeks. That's why we have colored 2 of these cells in January with this color. I have also added these text labels on top of these bars. These are people to whom each task is assigned. So the first stage involves all 4 members of the team. The second task is assigned to person 1, and so on. Then I have these percentages here which indicate how much of our task is completed. So in this example, task 1 and 2 are completed and task 3 is in progress, while rest of the tasks have not yet begun. There are few more additions I have made here. So like this icon here indicates these 2 tasks are interdependent. For example, you might be quality checking the app as it's being developed. At the same time, once the app has finished basic development, during the testing phase, the app needs to be changed to incorporate the feedback from QA testing. Then in the last June month, we have a few things. First, the mobile app is deployed. Once it's deployed, we start getting the feedback. So we have to provide the support to our customers to work on the feedback. So person 1 and person 2 are responsible for that. But this is again a recurring process, because once you receive the feedback, you will have to pass it on to the developer who will work on it. And then the QA will test it again, and then it needs to be deployed again. So these arrows are representing that process. So as you can see with this simple chart, we can keep track of so many things at once. So Gantt chart is a really powerful tool, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the domain of corporations. Even a student can benefit from using a Gantt chart. So to summarize, why Gantt chart? The first benefit of using a Gantt chart is it helps us visualize the entire process. With clear starts and ends, we know exactly where we are with a task in time. Next, it helps us track the progress and monitor different tasks in time. So if there are any delays or bottlenecks, we can know right there instead of when it's too late. Third, it can help us manage resources. So in this case, Although we have assigned various tasks to different members, during this project, if we realize that we are getting delayed, and one of the reasons was because we miscalculated the time it takes for a certain task, or we miscalculated the amount of people or man hours we need for a task, we can immediately reallocate our resources to make sure we are on track to complete the project. Next, it helps us improve planning process. A Gantt chart can help us break down complex projects into manageable tasks with dependencies. For example, here you will realize that the development process is very closely linked with QA testing, as well as after we have launched our app, all these 4 steps from development, testing, deployment to feedback and support have to work in sync with each other. Fifth advantage is it helps with communication. Because everything is laid out visually in a chart form, there is less scope for confusion in terms of who is doing what, how are we progressing with our project, are there any delays, and so on. This one chart can make sure everyone is on the same page. And finally, it helps with coordinating tasks. As you saw, by highlighting the dependencies of different tasks, we can make sure that everything is in order and there are minimal conflicts. Next, let's look at how to create a Gantt chart. If you search online, there are millions of templates out there. So in this next segment, I want to break down the process of making a Gantt chart as easy as possible. To make a Gantt chart, first we need to identify all our tasks and milestones. So first, start by making a list of tasks with their start and end dates and how long they are expected to take with any interdependencies. Once you made that list, decide on the timeline. Like in our app development example, our timeline was in months, specifically 6 months, and we listed down 6 or 7 tasks along with their interdependencies and who is doing what. Once we have listed down our tasks and milestones and decided on the timeline, next step is to pick a template. So my goal with a template is, instead of focusing on the formatting and how beautiful a template looks, what I like to focus on is fundamental aspects of a template. So I have looked up online and I have tried to classify different templates. What I realized is there are 4 different types of templates you can make in PowerPoint. One is with a table, another is with using lines, third is with using shapes, and fourth is using an actual chart in PowerPoint. And within each of these, we can of course have so many variations with different time axes. So next, I want to show you different types of templates that we could potentially need for any of our Gantt charts. So this first example we have is with a table that's created completely in PowerPoint. And for the time axis, we have 12 months. Let's look at all the variations we could potentially have using a table. Next, we could have a template with 3 years and 12 months under each year. Then we could also have 4 quarters in a year. Then we could have weeks with days under each week. Then we could have the specific date. I think there are over 30 days. Then we could have 2 Gantt charts for 2 months. This is more in a calendar form. And finally, we have this template when we are not sure exactly what time of the year we will be starting our project. So this could be useful for giving tentative timelines, let's say at the proposal stage when we are not sure exactly when the project is expected to start. The benefit of using a table for a Gantt chart is your bars will always move with your table. So if I resize my table, if I add delete rows, these bars won't be affected. So it's a lot more robust to have table for a Gantt chart, and it's quite easy to also color this. So let's say if the task 1 is expected to take 7 days, you just select these cells and give this a color like so. The next type we have is with lines. The lines are easiest to work with. For example, if you want to change the duration, you just bring your cursor to the endpoint, hold down your shift key, and then just move your line to whatever point you want. It's super easy. The only drawback with lines is if I were to change my table Let's say if I were to shrink this, the lines don't move with these, so you'll have to make some manual adjustments. So we have the same variations with align as well. So this is for year, this is with quarters, then we have weeks, specific dates, months, and just days. The third category we have is with shapes. This is the prettiest looking option, and it's also quite easy to change. So in order to adjust your bars, you just have to bring your cursor to this middle point, hold down your shift key. That way we make sure that our bar only increases in one direction, and then just drag this shape to whatever point you want. I have created the same variation with shapes, so check those out. For the last type, we have an actual bar chart. So here, if I right click and go to edit data, I can edit my value in this second column. So let's say if this task was only 50% complete, just enter 50% here, and you will see that the bar has updated to reflect that. You can change the colors of these bars. So let's say if I want to change this from light blue to this yellow and change this to a darker yellow, I can do that. We have the same variations with a chart, so check these out as well. Once you have picked the right template, it's time to fill up the tasks vertically. So let's say we selected this template. For our app development example, we just need 6 months. So the next step is to remove these extra columns and clear the colors from our cells. Next, fill up these tasks vertically. The next step is to start plotting our bars. Once we have plotted our bars, this is how it could look. Step 6 is to start customizing it by adding details like progress percentages, assigning resources, and adding arrows and stuff like that for interdependencies. Once we have added all the details, our final chart looks like this. And the last step is to keep updating this regularly. So you could update this every few days or every week or so. The goal is to keep track of the progress and make changes and corrections in time. So once you make updates, our chart could look like this. Here, my first 2 tasks have completed, so I have changed the color to a green and updated the percentages to 100%. Any changes we make to this chart as we go along will have to be reflected in this chart. For example, later we realized that the scope of the project is a lot larger than we thought, so we decided to add another member. That member will have to be added to this chart. So I hope this gave you a good sense of what a Gantt chart is, what are its benefits, and how to create it efficiently. My focus of this video was not the aesthetic look and feel of your Gantt chart, but the functionality part of it. You can, of course, format this to make it look a lot better, but that's a topic for another video. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for future videos, and I will catch you next time.